Tariffs are in the news a lot these days. It's okay. If you're a fan, I'm not going to persuade you. But we often talk about tariffs as if the damage happens at the border. A tax is applied, prices go up, someone pays more. But in reality, the real damage doesn't happen at customs. This is especially true when you're in manufacturing for capital equipment, apparel, building materials, and consumer electronics. Anything that involves a well-planned supply chain. That's what this video is about. The damage happens long before a container ever moves. It happens in planning, in design, in decisions that were made years earlier, based on assumptions that no longer hold. Because when you plan a supply chain, you're not just choosing suppliers. You're committing to a system. Let me say that again. You're committing to a system. And that system is extraordinarily hard to build. See video 440 for more on this. In many cases, designing the supply chain is more difficult than engineering the product itself. Products live on drawings, prototypes, and test benches. Supply chains live in contracts, factories, ports, financing arrangements, regulatory regimes, and human relationships. They span countries, currencies, political systems, and they only work when the environment is stable and predictable. That's the part that often gets missed. Businesses can plan around high costs. They can plan around low costs. What they cannot plan around is constant change. Every tariff introduced forces a reassessment. Every tariff adjusted forces a recalculation. Every tariff removed forces another round of questioning. Should we relocate production? Should we requalify suppliers? Should we redesign the bill of materials? Should we hold more inventory as a hedge? None of those questions are cheap to answer, and none of them are theoretical. When the change happens, everyone moves at once too, meaning replanning on optimal terms is hard. Everyone leaps to the same and most obvious dance partners, and they choose. Re-engineering a supply chain is not a spreadsheet exercise. It requires time, capital, legal work, operational disruption, and often irreversible commitments. You don't temporarily move a factory. You don't casually retrain a workforce. You don't instantly replace a supplier that took years to qualify. Yet that's exactly what frequent tariff changes demand. Consider a manufacturer sourcing components across multiple countries. A tariff appears on a key input. They start qualifying alternatives. New tooling, new testing, new contracts. 6 months later, the tariff is lifted. The money is already spent. The disruption already absorbed. The efficiency already lost. Multiply that by dozens of inputs and multiple policy swings, and the result isn't strategic reshoring or smarter trade. It's paralysis. Supply chains are optimized for consistency, not whiplash. This is why unpredictability is often more damaging than bad policy. A stable, imperfect rule set can be managed. An unstable one cannot. Frequent tariff changes don't just raise costs. They force companies to divert resources away from innovation, productivity, and resilience toward constant replanning. And that cost doesn't disappear. It gets passed on to customers, to employees, to shareholders. Smaller firms feel this most acutely. They don't have teams dedicated to trade compliance and scenario modeling. They don't have the balance sheets to absorb repeated disruption. So they exit markets, or never enter them at all. Which brings us back to the original point. Tariffs aren't just taxes, they're signals. And when those signals are constantly placed, changed, and removed, they undermine the very systems they claim to influence. The only thing worse than a tariff is a tariff regime that won't sit still. Because supply chains don't fail loudly. They fail quietly, expensively, and far away from the policy decisions that cause the damage. And by the time the effects are visible, the cost has already been paid.